In today's episode,
Digital Guardians, The Essential Guide to Protecting Your Kids Online by Victor Odesnak.
Welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're going to become digital guardians.
No,
At least that's the goal. We've got excerpts from Digital Guardians, The Essential Guide for Protecting Your Kids Online.
Okay.
And this guide is packed with tips and strategies.
It really is. It's like a roadmap for this crazy digital world.
Exactly.
You know, understanding the risks and the tools.
Right.
And most importantly, how to build trust and communicate with your kids.
Communication. That's huge. And speaking of navigating,
Yeah.
the guide starts with what it calls the digital playground.
Okay.
Sounds fun,
Yeah.
right? But as parents, we know it's a potential minefield.
Yeah.
I mean, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, gaming communities,
Yeah.
forums,
The whole shebang.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
And what I found fascinating
Yeah.
is that the guide goes beyond just like listing them out. It actually dives into the specific risks associated with each one.
Right. Like Instagram.
Yes.
All those visuals can really put pressure on kids to present this perfect image,
Oh, yeah.
which, you know,
Yeah,
especially for kids struggling with self-esteem, can be tough.
absolutely. And then you've got TikTok with those short videos.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, keeping up with the trends as adults is hard enough.
I know.
Can you imagine being a kid
Right.
and trying to fit in? And we can't forget about gaming communities and forums.
Right.
All the anonymity
Yeah.
makes it so much tougher to monitor what's going on.
For sure.
Increases the risk of cyberbullying
Yeah.
or even predators.
It's like the Wild West out there.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I do.
it's starting to get a little scary.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin? How do we protect our kids in this digital jungle?
Well, the guide really emphasizes that it's not about banning technology altogether.
Okay.
I mean, that's just not realistic these days.
Right.
It's about being informed and proactive,
Okay.
equipping yourself with the knowledge, and then taking steps to reduce the risks.
So finding that balance between
Yeah.
freedom and safety.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a pretty controversial topic.
Oh.
Parental surveillance.
Yeah.
How much is too much?
Right.
The guide calls it a tightrope walk.
It really is. On one hand, you want to protect your kids,
Of course.
but on the other hand, you don't want to stifle them.
Right.
You don't want to invade their privacy.
It's hard. You know, reading that, I was thinking about my own teenage years.
Mhm.
If my parents were always looking over my shoulder online,
Mm-hmm.
I would felt suffocated.
I think that's a really valid point. And actually, the guide says a relationship built on trust
Right.
and open communication is more likely to lead to your kids coming to you if there's a problem.
That makes sense.
Instead of hiding it.
Yeah, because they're afraid of getting in trouble.
Exactly.
So instead of being the digital police,
Hmm.
we should be more like digital mentors
I like that. Yeah.
or guides.
Yeah.
And I like that the guide acknowledges that. There's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to monitoring. You have to consider the age,
Hmm.
the maturity of the child, the platforms they're using, the potential risks.
Absolutely.
So a younger child might need more oversight than a teenager who's already demonstrating
Yeah.
responsible behavior.
Right. And the goal is to gradually empower them to make their own decisions as they mature.
Okay. So like a gradual release of responsibility.
Exactly.
So we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
the digital playground
Mm-hmm.
and this balance between protection and privacy.
Yeah.
But let's get down to the practical stuff. What tools and techniques
Yeah.
are recommended? Because let's be real, most of us aren't tech wizards.
Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The guide has this whole digital toolkit
Uh-huh.
outlining various tools and techniques for monitoring online activity.
Right.
But it's not just about fancy software.
Wait, it does mention some software.
It does.
Right, like Google Family Link, Apple Screen Time.
Yeah.
I even saw Bark,
Yes.
which I've heard uses some pretty sophisticated algorithms to flag risky content.
It does. But here's the key. It stresses that technology is just one piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so it's not about relying solely on apps to do the work for us.
Exactly.
Got it.
The guide emphasizes setting clear guidelines,
Okay.
establishing family media agreements, and having regular conversations about online safety.
So proactive parenting,
Yes.
not just reactive policing.
Exactly.
So instead of waiting for something to go wrong,
Yeah.
we set up safeguards beforehand.
Right.
I like that. It's like creating a family culture of online safety.
Precisely. Creating a culture where kids understand the rules
Yes.
and the reasons behind them. And that brings us to one of the most powerful tools we have.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This tool is all about trust and communication.
Trust and communication. I've heard that before. But how do we actually put it into practice?
Well, the guide has a whole section dedicated to this. It talks about creating a safe space, asking open-ended questions, and actively listening to their concerns without judgment.
Without judgment.
Okay.
And there's this one story that really stood out to me.
Right.
It's about a mom who explained online safety to her son by comparing it to a sneaky troll trying to steal treasure in an online game.
Oh, I love that. That's so clever. And relatable for kids. Right. And it resonated with him because he got so into figuring out how to outsmart the troll and protect his treasure.
So he was gamifying online safety.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that's what I love about this guide. It's full of these practical tips and real-life examples that make it so much easier to apply these concepts. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all on the same team.
Right.
Right. It's us and our kids against the sneaky trolls of the internet.
Exactly. And when kids feel like they can talk to you, they're more likely to come to you if they encounter something that makes them uncomfortable.
That makes sense.
Or scared.
So we're building that partnership where our kids see us as a resource, not an obstacle.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about creating that safe space where they feel heard and understood without fear of judgment or punishment.
Which makes sense. Because if they can't talk to us, they're more likely to make mistakes.
Right.
Or get into situations they can't handle.
It's why the guide stresses being approachable and supportive while still setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between being a parent and a confidant.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it leads us to the next challenge.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Conflict resolution.
Oh, yeah.
Guys.
Yeah.
Well, let's face it. Monitoring and setting boundaries are bound to lead to some disagreements.
Absolutely. Disagreements are inevitable. But the guide offers some really helpful strategies.
Like what? Give me the goods.
Well, it starts with active listening.
Okay.
Really taking the time to hear their perspective without interrupting or immediately jumping in with your opinion.
So important. Validating their feelings.
Yes.
Even if you don't agree with their choices or actions.
Right. And the guide also suggests using I statements to express your concerns without blaming or shaming your child.
Okay.
For example, you could say, I feel worried when I see you online late at night.
Okay.
Instead, you're always online too late.
Right.
They can make a world of difference.
It's like shifting the focus from accusation to collaboration.
Exactly.
Working together to find a solution. And the guide reminds us that making mistakes is part of the learning process.
It is.
For both parents and kids.
Yeah.
It encourages us to model healthy apology and forgiveness.
Yes.
Showing them that it's okay to admit when we're wrong and to make amends.
That's such a powerful message.
It is.
Creating that culture of understanding and grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're all on this journey together.
Exactly. And that's what makes this guide so valuable. It's not just about rules and restrictions.
Right.
It's about fostering that deeper connection, building trust, and empowering them to navigate this digital world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
The digital playground, the ethics of surveillance,
Yeah.
the importance of trust and communication, and even how to handle those disagreements.
Right.
But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, there is. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into even more practical strategies to help our kids become their own digital guardians. And we'll uncover some inspiring ways to prepare them for a future that we can't fully predict.
Ooh, I can't wait. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You know, thinking about kids becoming their own digital guardians makes me think about how each kid is different.
Oh, right. The guide emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
So we need to tailor our approach to their individual needs and personalities.
Exactly. What might be a minor issue to one child could be a major stress for another.
Right.
We need to be sensitive to that. It's about being present and engaged, not just monitoring, but really caring and understanding.
So it's about being more than a digital guardian. It's about being a parent who guides and supports and empowers their child.
Beautifully said. It's about recognizing that online safety is just one part of parenting in this digital age. Our goal is to raise happy and healthy kids.
Yes.
Kids who thrive both online and offline.
Well said. And that brings us back to this idea of empowering kids to be their own digital guardians. It's not about shielding them from every danger.
Right.
It's about giving them the tools
Yeah.
and the knowledge to protect themselves.
Exactly. It's about fostering their digital resilience, that ability to bounce back from challenges and learn from mistakes.
I like that. And speaking of challenges,
Mm-hmm.
the guide acknowledges that disagreements are inevitable.
Oh, they are. It's a sensitive topic.
Right.
And it's normal for parents and kids to disagree on what's appropriate.
Of course.
But the guide gives us some strategies for navigating those conflicts.
Like what? I'm always looking for new tips.
Well, active listening is key.
Yeah.
Really hearing your child's perspective without interrupting or jumping in with your opinion.
That's so important. Validating their feelings even if you don't agree.
Right. And using I statements to express your concerns without blaming them. For example, I feel worried when I see you online late at night, instead of, you're always online too late.
Right. It's all about how it's said.
Yeah.
It's about collaborating.
Yeah.
Working together.
Yeah.
To find a solution.
And remember, everyone makes mistakes. Parents and kids. We need to model that healthy apology and forgiveness.
Right. Showing them that it's okay to admit when we're wrong.
Exactly. That's what makes this guide so helpful. It's about connecting with our kids, building trust, empowering them.
You know what really struck me?
What's that?
The guide's focus on digital literacy.
Oh, yeah.
It's not enough to just restrict access or monitor.
Yeah.
We need to teach our kids how to think critically about what they see online.
Absolutely. Especially now, when there's so much misinformation out there.
We need to give them the skills
Yeah.
to be smart about what they read.
To tell fact from fiction.
Right. The guide talks about bringing this into everyday life, like talking about current events or discussing scams, even looking at advertisements together.
That's a good idea. It's about making critical thinking a habit.
So it's more than just protecting them from bad content. It's about making them responsible citizens online.
Exactly. The guide gives some tips for this, like talking about how those algorithms work.
That's a good one.
How they can change what we see.
Because kids need to know that their screens aren't always showing them reality as tailored to them.
It's about encouraging them to question what they see.
Yes.
To ask, who made this? What's their goal? Is this even true?
That's great. We want them to be navigators, not just consumers.
And media literacy, too. Understanding how pictures and videos can be changed, how to spot fake news.
So important with deepfakes and everything.
It's not just about protecting them. It's about empowering them to create good content, too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The guide mentions that. Encouraging kids to use their voices for good, to be creative and connect.
Exactly. It's about digital citizenship, understanding your rights, and being a good online citizen.
So it's about making a difference, not just consuming or connecting.
Precisely. Helping them see the potential to create,
Yeah.
to innovate, to learn, to connect in a meaningful way.
Thinking about all of this makes me realize that being a digital guardian is about way more than just protecting them from harm.
For sure.
It's about helping them thrive, to use technology in good ways, to be responsible online.
Couldn't agree more. It's about giving them the skills and the values to navigate this crazy world.
Speaking of navigating, the guide talks about the future.
Yes.
A future we can't even imagine.
That's what we'll be exploring in our final part.
Ooh.
It's not just about current threats, but about preparing them for challenges that don't even exist yet.
Okay, so we're back, ready to tackle this final frontier of digital guardianship. We've talked about the here and now, but what about the future?
Future.
What does the guide say about preparing our kids for this digital world that's always changing?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. The guide calls this equipping kids for the unknown digital landscape.
Okay.
And it says we can't just keep reacting to every new app or trend.
Right. It's like trying to teach them the rules of the road when the road keeps changing.
Exactly. We need to give them skills and values that'll always be useful.
Okay, I like that.
Oh.
So what are some of the key ones?
Well, critical thinking is a big one. We've talked about evaluating information, but it's also about problem solving, decision making, and adapting to new situations.
And those are life skills.
Exactly. Not just digital ones.
The guide also mentions creativity and innovation.
Oh, yeah. The digital world is always evolving, so kids who can think outside the box will thrive.
So it's not just about consuming content, it's about creating it.
Exactly. Whether it's coding or designing,
Yeah.
writing or making videos, encourage them to express themselves.
I like that. So they're not just passive residents, they're architects of this digital world.
Exactly. And speaking of connection, the guide also talks about collaboration and communication.
Right. Those are important everywhere.
Absolutely. The internet is all about connecting and sharing.
So we need to give them opportunities to collaborate.
Yes.
To have discussions.
Yes.
To build healthy relationships online.
It's about creating that supportive online community.
So it's a place to connect, to learn, and to make a difference.
Exactly. And that brings us to digital citizenship.
Digital citizenship.
Yeah, it's like being a good citizen, but online.
Okay.
It's about online etiquette, understanding your rights, being respectful, and using your voice for good.
You know, looking back on all of this, from the digital playground to the ethics of surveillance, to empowering our kids, this guide is amazing.
It is. It's about connecting with our kids, building that trust, and preparing them for this digital age.
You know, I started this deep dive feeling a little overwhelmed.
I get it.
But now I feel ready for this digital adventure with my kids.
That's great to hear. Just remember, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being present and engaged and committed to creating that safe and supportive environment.
So to all the digital guardians out there, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay connected with your kids.
Beautifully said. It's a journey we take together, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into digital guardians. We hope you found it helpful. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep the conversation going.
You've listened to our latest episode of Right Here, Right Now,